How is everyone doing today? And in this video, we're going to talk about a couple of different things. One thing being, of course, the next coming characters and what they do, all the different types of stuff, as we usually do with these campaigns. I know I owe y'all a lot of showcases. It's just been really hard to record, I'm not going to lie, with, I need the energy to do it, and then I don't be having the energy, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do it. So, hopefully I can get those out for Yinsha and Ruka. What are the other characters we're missing that need showcasing? Not Waki. Waki's kind of like a AoE grinding type of character. She really doesn't need it. Right now, if I'm not wrong, the score battle is still AoE, so it's not really the best environment for Eunice and Ruka. So that's the reason why it's kind of being put on hold for a little bit. But let's go ahead and start talking about this. And only that, we're also going to talk about who you should pick for this, although it is a little bit late, I know. Some of you may have already made your decision. Some of y'all are waiting. So today I'm going to talk about, for those that are waiting still, which one is better. Realistically, they're both really good options in two different scenarios. One being, of course, if you really like Thunder teams, and the other one is going to be if you want to invest towards your Dark team. But we'll talk about that very soon. First things first, for our fall campaign, I completely forgot to do what I usually do, which is go through each one of these and then enlarging it so it makes it a little bit easier to see, a little bit easier to read. Okay, first things first. Irene, Veritica, and also McDonald's Kozue. So Irene is definitely going to be a pretty big one to talk about because this character is going to be pretty important for the pure script meta, and especially with the update that JP gets in the future. Pierce crit characters become a little bit more valuable than they were before. Back then, Pierce crit characters were like around here-ish, and elemental teams were a little bit like up here, just because of how many buffs elemental teams are able to use. I guess you could say in tandem with all the other buffs, and then have, you know, the general buffs, have the general debuffs, the elemental debuffs. There's a lot of things that went for elemental teams, but now that a lot of them get squished into the same multiplier for the damage calculation in the future, Pierce crit ends up becoming a lot closer to the elemental teams, just due to the fact that they changed the way those modifiers work. That elemental buffs aren't as important. They're still good, they still are very much wanted, but they're not as important as compared to having them at the current moment. So Irene is definitely going to be a pretty important character because not only are you able to use it as 0 SP, this is going to be a DP damage dealt break, and not only that, you're also getting that 500% crit attack, which is really nice, or 500% weakness damage, no matter the attribute. So if you really want to build, you know, a team that is going to be able to clear any side of, you know, the Astrium or the Anachrony, anything like that, you just want a really quick clear, not really a really high score one, but just a really high clear or a quick clear. This character, Irene SS2, are definitely going to be the characters you want to look at. Also looking at the first Irene, which is Irene SS1, where you're able to actually, you know, do the same exact thing because of the clock tower update that we just got, which is allowing you to also do Pierce crit with this Irene. So this is all really good stuff, of course, for Irene. Pierce crit is definitely going to be making a come up because of the future update that JP has that we'll eventually get in the future, making Pierce crit units a lot better than they were before. So Irene is definitely going to be a pretty hard hitter, I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to a DPS that you could pull, compared to a lot of the elemental DPSs that you, of course, need to have the small parts of each team to be able to make them hit their hardest as fast as possible or as good as possible. And then, you know, Irene, she just needs crit rate, crit damage, hit count, mind dying. You're pretty much good to go, which is all really nice. They do have a common skill that gives them crit damage and attack up, which is all really nice, and then more crit damage on limit break 3. The next character is going to be Veritica, who is going to be alongside Irene, and this is just going to be an overall healer for the team. Not really anything crazy, really nice for an emergency heal because of the 0 SP, allowing you to be able to go into the negatives. This gives you up to 1500 DP with 150% overheal, which is all really nice. And not only that, you're also getting that party debuff guard, which is going to help out with a lot of these bosses or enemies that are going to lock you out, they're going to poison you, they're going to lower your defense. This could end up helping quite a bit for a bunch of different characters. And then you also have just the regular AoE attack, which is going to be based on how much health you have or how much DP you have, and that's going to determine how much damage you're going to be doing. And then other than that, that's pretty much it. The limit break 0 passive is really nice in my opinion, which is when your own DP is at 100% or more, you will be able to give the full frontline defense up by 15%, which I always like defense, especially when it's given to the team for free and you're not really risking anything. This makes Veritica a really nice sustainer if you don't have any at the current moment, but a really nice, you know, if I get them, that's a pretty cool thing alongside Irene. So this banner isn't really bad, especially because of how good Irene is, and Veritica is just a nice prize to get if you so happen to get her while you try to go for Irene. Now the next one is going to be pretty interesting, which is going to be McDonald's Kazoya. Now this Kazoya is a little unique just because of the way she works, and also for the fact that she is a super support when it comes to all that she can give. One of the main things is that she is going to have this EX skill, which is going to be giving the whole team morale, and morale is going to be able to stay on the character that you are going to be with, let's say in a dungeon, for the entire dungeon. So if you end up popping this skill up to the point of hitting 10 morale, you're able to give that to everybody on the team for the entire duration of the dungeon. I've seen this character being used a lot in, of course, grinding stages where they're able to, you know, get morale up all the way. You're getting overdrive by 15% every time you use this, up to 6 times. And then she also has the ability to give ally crit rate up, ally crit damage up, so she also is a buffer. And then not only that, you could also bring out the SS1 Kazoya skill where you're able to give SP for absolutely free. And you're also giving party attack up, which is all really good stuff. You're able to give crit rate, give crit damage, give attack, give SP to the entire team, and you're also able to give stats as well, plus overdrive with this Kazoya if you have all the moving parts, which is really nice overall. She also has, if she has more than 6 morale, you get another SP back, allowing you to use that crit rate, crit damage more. And then not only that, you also have the normal SP +1, and then overdrive by 5% every time she's on the front line. So that's all really good stuff. So the main thing here is that the morale buff is going to give you +5 stats and an extra 5% skill attack every morale stack. So when you have morale stacks and it goes up to 10, that means you can get 50 extra additional stats, which is kind of insane, and also 50 extra skill attack boost on top of all the other buffs that she has. Now, this character isn't necessarily the most needed. She's more like a really nice to have character for you to be able to grind dungeons, so that you're able to get the max amount of stats, get really quick SP, plus being able to get overdrive as well, to be able to give to your entire team for the entirety of the dungeon, which is really cool. There are some use cases, of course, where you could use her in score battle, but the issue with that is that she doesn't really have a means to be able to sustain herself, especially when she has to be in the front line for an absurd amount of time. You got to remember, you have to hit this 6 uses basically to be able to get close to that 10 mark, which you realistically only have to be there 5 times. That way you can get the full 10 stacks. That's 5 turns in the front line, plus if you're in the front line is when you get overdrive. So she really wants to be there for the front line when you are on the team. She wants to stay out there. The problem is she doesn't really have a way to sustain herself unless you have characters like a Aoi or a character that can taunt and stop the enemy from hitting AoE. Other than that, this Kazoya ends up being a big liability because they can get KO'd fairly easy because of the lack of sustain and the lack of defense that this character can have. So this character overall is just a really nice to have, really good character for grinding for the most part. Can be used in score battle, but like I said, there are faults to it, especially when you look at what she can provide versus what she has to do to provide that. And then Irene is just really good as a character, as an attacker, because of her pure crit nature. And then Veritica is just a really nice sustain to have for the future. Besides that, that looks like that's going to be it for the SS's that are coming this patch. We're going to be seeing a brand new story event, which is all really nice. And then we're also going to be looking at a 10-day campaign period where we're going to get one SS guaranteed 10 role recruitment, which is really nice. We're seeing a lot of these SS guaranteed options coming out, with the scripts coming out from the weekly missions, from the fall campaign, which is giving us another SS, which is all really good. And then not only that, my favorite mode is going to be here, which is going to be the Astrium will be coming back as well with this update, which I am very excited for. We're gonna be getting a new score challenge. Of course, Irene and also Kozue will be sharing the same time as a banner, so they should be sharing pity. So if you pull for Irene and you end up getting Veritica, you can go ahead and pull Kazoya for free from your pity. Or if you only pick up, let's say Kazoya, because you really like Kazoya, But you're pretty close to pity, then you can go ahead and go for Irene. Most likely, most of the time they should be conjoined and being able to share pity. There's going to be a step up banner. Sadly, this one will be paid for, unlike the one we had recently. And then we also have a of course, the SS guaranteed ticket recruitment. Now, and it also will include Irene and, you know, the other characters, I'm assuming, because Irene is right here. The last thing to talk about is going to be the Yinsha and Kanzaki ticket. Now, both of these characters are realistically very great. One of them is going to be Yinsha, who is going to be just the premier thunder buffer for the most part. You're able to have party thunder crit rate up, party thunder crit damage up, and then not only that, you're also giving yourself hit count buff with their SS1, which is very, very important. So you have a 2-in-1 buffer. You have your elemental buffer, and you also have your hit count buffer all in one. Please note that, of course, it will take some time before you're able to do anything, just because of the fact that she will have to use an enormous amount of SP to be able to cycle through all of these different buffs. Of course, being able to go into the negatives, make it a little bit faster than it should be, but it still will take up quite some time. So you do want to know that if you were going to pick up this Yinsha and you want to use the EX1 from SS1, and you also want to use her EX that's going to give the thunder crit rate and crit damage up, it will take some time to, of course, get all of those buffs out, because she will be the sole person giving out all of these buffs. So it is going to be a little hard for the most part to get all of this done and to be able to give you all that you possibly need in regards to all the SP that you would have to buff yourself out. But it's definitely a really nice quality of life to have when both of your roles of the elemental buffer and hit count buff are on the same character. This opens up for either a devastation unit or maybe even a debuffer unit. That way you're able to do even more damage. But this is strictly for those that have, let's say, Thunder Sharo, strictly for those that are going to go the Thunder route. This is definitely a character that will be very beneficial to you, because of course this is a really good Thunder buffer overall. So if you're looking into Thunder, if you have Overwrite Sharo, this Yinsha might be for you. But another character to talk about is going to be Dark Kanzaki. And Dark Kanzaki is a little bit of a special character, because for the most part, she realistically is just going to be a Dark Devastation unit, which is pretty important for the future score battles. Not because she's dark or on any means, but more for the point that Devastation units is really nice to have one at least of each character in each element, which is going to help out with score battle, help out with a bunch of different modes, in hitting as hard as you possibly can. And with Kanzaki being able to have the quality of life of being able to give herself hit count because of her S free option that comes from the redeem shop, she's actually able to give herself hit count buff, which is actually really strong. And then not only that, she gives herself self dark attack up. So all you need is, of course, dark crit rate, crit damage, and then also looking at regular crit damage, and then hit count. Well, hit count you have yourself, and then Mind's Eye as well. So you're able to shed off, you know, the need to have something like Yinsha on the team. That opens up to have other things like having Sutama being able to give crit rate, crit damage, Mind's Eye. Now you just need elemental buff and you're pretty much good to go. So having Kanzaki would actually be a pretty big upgrade to your account for the most part, just because you will be able to hit that on one slot or one hold in your account that is Dark Devastation unit. Now if you have some other character that's able to do the same thing and you like them, then of course that means you can go for Yinsha. But if you are looking for a more general use pick, and when I mean general, not necessarily mean you can just use this wherever, but if you want a character that's going to put some effort into your account, Dark Kanzaki would be really nice, just because overall she can give herself hit count and she's a devastation unit for dark teams if you are building a dark team. And especially with Unison Ruka being here, you should have a dark attacker and potentially have the, you know, suit Megumi for the field, having who's the dark crit rate, crit damage buffer? I don't even remember for the most part, because I don't play the dark teams anymore for quite some time. But definitely Kanzaki would be a really good pickup if you are building into dark. If you just picked up Unison Ruka, that way you're able to have a dark devastation unit alongside it, or just overall really nice attacker for the most part, just because she will be able to do a good amount of damage with hitting weakness, and also raising that devastation meter, which we always like to have at the same time. And then Yinsha is more geared towards those that are going to be building towards Thunder, that already have Overwrite Sharo. That's going to be your main point of concern. So there's definitely going to be use cases where one's going to be better than the other for your account. That definitely depends on you and what you're looking for in your account. But other than that, that is going to be it with this celebration. That should be all that there is to talk about. But thank you guys so much for watching. See y'all in the next one, and peace.